My name is Ahmed Benchemsi. I'm a journalist and a media entrepreneur. Together with a group of Arab journalists, activists, social media activists, and artists, we created a web magazine called freearabs.com. The object of this magazine, the purpose, is to capture and perpetuate the original spirit of an event, or rather a string of events that changed our lives, and that is the Arab Spring. You remember all those things happened 3 years ago. All of a sudden, thousands, then tens of thousands, then millions of young Arabs took to the streets, defying dictatorships, claiming new rights, claiming democracy, claiming human rights. And the protests were triggered by a rather new type of activists that we didn't hear much about before in the Arab world, and that were young, tech-savvy, social media-savvy, pro-democracy and pro-civil rights activists, very spirited, very enthusiastic. And the protests they triggered, they spiraled at some point to actual revolutions which took several dictatorships down. Of course, it's very important to remember that many social, political, and economic factors combined to allow the butterfly effect to take place. However, the protests were indeed triggered by the online networking and the power of community building, and this is what created this chain reaction known as the Arab Spring. I think the last image that we have here, it pretty much captures the, it's coming. There's an image that was taken in Tunisia with a young man with a laptop, and during the Tunisian revolution, it's right here, and the sign on the computer says, "This is our weapon." And I think it pretty much summarized the peaceful and modern nature of the process called the Arab Spring. So this was in 2011. Then fast forward 3 years later, what happened? What do we see? Well, in Syria, the dictatorship refused to surrender to the pressure for democracy, and it turned to a bloody civil war. Even in countries where revolutions actually succeeded, like in Tunisia, for example, the Islamist fundamentalists came out of the ballot box, which is fine. The thing is, they came with an agenda of suppressing civil rights and freedoms, and with pretty scary allies like hardcore Salafist Islamic fundamentalists. In Egypt, same scenario. The ballot box brought an Islamist president, which is fine again, but we, again, Salafist hardcore allies. And then things trickled down pretty quickly to renewed military control over the country, and now he's the new master of the country, General al-Sisi. And in general, all over the Arab world, police brutality happened, and protesters, well, slowly cornered to a very narrow place. So here we are now. 3 years into the Arab Spring protests. The question is, where are those young, tech-savvy, online-savvy activists that we've been speaking about? You know, all those people, the Arab Spring generation who triggered the protests in the first place. Well, they're still where they used to be, what they were, which is mainly on social media. They retweet each other, they befriend, tag each other, do whatever you do when you're on social media. But as a collective network, their leverage is, the influence they used to have 3 years ago is pretty much dead in the water. So this is an extremely frustrating situation. And this new generation of activists have been having this online conversation since 2011, since the Arab Spring started to decline until today, and there were countless conversations about that. One of these conversations, I participated in it. We were like 3 or 4 persons in the beginning, then 6, then 10, then a dozen, then 2 dozens. And we came pretty much quickly to the conclusion that journalists, bloggers, online activists needed to regroup in one single platform to keep this spirit alive. One platform that would be a springboard, a network to exert continued pressure. And this is how Free Arabs was born. This is the Al-Arab Al-Ahrar, Free Arabs in Arabic calligraphy. And our ambition is to capture the spirit of the Arab Spring generation. We do not pretend to speak on behalf of the Arab Spring generation, not at all, but we pretend to offer a platform for the most brilliant and the most creative of the members of the generation to speak out and to reach out to other people and to keep that spirit alive. So what do we mean exactly by the spirit of the Arab Spring generation? Well, of course, it consists in exposing corruption, fighting oppression, supporting all those brave and courageous activists who are in jail and who fight with their bodies and in the street against the regime. But it also consists in highlighting the power of the individual and like regular people, regular young persons. So all these things can be done in very original ways. And one of these ways is courage. This is an important value that Free Arabs want to promote. So an example of this is a young woman in Saudi Arabia. Her name is Lujain Al-Hatlul. She's a college student. And like many of her fellow college students from Saudi Arabia, when they go study abroad, well, they take off their veil, except she did something that the other ones didn't do, is that she went online to explain why. And look at why it takes courage to do that.
خلع الحجاب بمعتقدكم فعل حرام، فاعله يعتبر عاصي، لكن كونكم تقذفون هذه البنية لهذا الفعل فلا تنسون أن القاذف يعتبر ملعون أمام الله. إن الذين يرمون المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات لعنوا في الدنيا والآخرة ولهم عذاب عظيم.
This was not just a very brave thing to do, it was also a very smart thing to do, because actually the message of Lujain was to all people who attack her because she took off her veil in the name of religious argument was that I am not the one against religion, you are. And she did that by declaiming the Quran, which women are not supposed to do in the Muslim world. So it's a very strong, powerful, and feminist message. Of course, she was widely attacked after that and accused of being a sinner, of being an apostate, of whatever you can imagine. And look what she answered.
حبيت أهني الأرباب الصغار اللي طالعين لي بالمقاطعة الأولى أجل مصير النار ها؟ وأنتم مش عرفكم رقم اتخذتم مقام الله يصلحكم.
I love that girl. I mean, her spirit is fantastic. That's exactly the kind of spirit we want to embody as the true and original spirit of the Arab Spring. Another value that we want to promote is creativity. There's a little village in northern Syria called Kafr Nabal that has been constantly under fire of the army of the Syrian regime since the civil war started. And despite being under fire, they have managed to keep an incredibly feisty and creative spirit. Like when a couple weeks ago, President Obama said that, the use of chemical weapons in Syria is not tolerable anymore and we should do something about it, they had a pretty original response. Now, I want you to imagine people who are constantly shelled by massive bomb droppings and who keep this kind of spirit and this kind of feisty message and the original way to communicate with the rest of the world. Isn't that a fantastic spirit to promote? That's one of the things we want to highlight in Free Arabs. Another very important value that we think makes the core of the spirit of the Arab Spring generation is audacity. And I want to give an example about those high school students in Tunisia who performed like a street performance. And it so happened that the Minister of Education, who is an Islamist politician, like he was pretty angry and he wanted to punish them. So here was the response. They gathered in front of his office and they did this. Gangnam Style. Op, 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 op. Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Op, 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 op. Oppan Gangnam Style. Con los terroristas. They do the Harlem Shake. Okay, so I think now you have grasped the spirit, the kind of spirit that Free Arabs want to promote as the original and strong and powerful spirit of the Arab Spring generation. And I want to end with a last video that, for me, summarizes all of these, values. It's basically a combat between good and evil and love and hate. I'll let you watch this video.
Do you love me? Do you need me? Do you want me?
راجع في الإسلام يلا يلا قوموا لنا ما تزعلوا خرج فيكم قرب قرب
أمين البارودي جناح الحربي الله الوطن الملك. ما باش نقولنا حقوق الانسان ما كاين لا حقوق الانسان الا هذاك النوع ديال البشر ها اللي تينفع معاه السلاح.
Do you love me? Do you need me? Do you want me?
Thank you for your attention.